The topic of the presentation is training and education with contemporary controls, networking and control equipment. So a little bit about contemporary controls. So we design and manufacture the system building blocks for networking, integration, and control equipment. So they are used in automation processes where performance and reliability are very important. Our products are based on open technologies. So we use BACnet, Ethernet, Modbus, Sedona, and our products are typically used in the building automation and industrial automation industries. And in this presentation, we'll go over why our networking and control products are perfectly suited for training and education applications. So at Contemporary Controls, we are committed to open controls. So our BAS automation line of HVAC controllers, they feature BACnet, which is again an open protocol. BACnet has about 80% plus market share in North America. And for our programming language, we use Sedona, which is an open source drag and drop component-based programming language. And then for our tool set or the programming tools, we use BAS control toolset. It can be used to configure, test, emulate, and archive controller operation on a Windows PC. A little bit more about BACnet controllers, which are called the BAS controls. They are 22-point controllers. They can be used for unitary control, for general purpose applications, such as controlling fan coil, heat pump, lead lag pump sequences, and constant volume air handler and RTUs. They are housed in a rugged, low profile metal enclosure. They have wide temperature operation, and they are suitable for indoor or outdoor applications. We support BACnet IP on the controllers as well as BACnet MSTP. For the I/O, we have a bunch of universal inputs. We have 4 binary inputs. They also have analog outputs and 6 relays or 6 binary outputs. For the configuration, they can be easily done using a standard web browser, using a web page, and they also have client-server functionality over BACnet. For the programming tools, we offer BAS control toolset. So what does a BAS control toolset include? It has Sedona application editor, which can be used again to make your own drag and drop programming logic using Sedona. Again, that's free. So for configuring the devices, you can use a simple web page. And then the best feature I think out of the tool set is the BAS emulator. So BAS emulator allows you to try before you buy. So you can install the BAS emulator. It's a PC application which emulates the operation of the controller. So you get a web page, so you can look at all the I/O channels, you can configure them properly, and then you can also set up the IP addresses for this emulated controller on your PC. The BAS backup allows you to make the backup of all your applications and the configuration settings onto a PC, and you can archive your project. So once you have a real controller, you can push all those settings and your applications back to the real controller. Again, if you have multiple controllers, again, you can push them and to a different PC and different controller. We also offer something called pre-built applications, which are, again, as you would imagine, free of cost to everybody. So these pre-built applications for BAS controls and our edge units can be used for constant volume air handlers. We have pre-built applications for fan coil units, again, for both the 2-pipe and 4-pipe applications, and for heat pumps as well for constant volume. As part of the pre-built applications, you get application notes, which give you the detailed about all the things that are included in the application. You also get a PDF schematic, which shows how the points list is connected. You also have sequence of operation in detail, and you have the wiring diagram showing you all the sensors that are used and all the outputs and the other devices that can be controlled with that application. So you can download them again at our website for free. Moving on to a typical setup example. So this shows, in a lab or in a classroom, what most of the trainers or the educators have done. You have multiple BAS control units here. In this example, we are showing the 22D, which is a 2-port Ethernet controller. So using one of the Ethernet ports, a student can connect his PC or a laptop, and they can configure the device. They can learn about Sedona and the programming language. The second Ethernet port allows you to go back to a central Ethernet switch. And that central Ethernet switch is basically the hub where all the other devices are connected. The instructor's PC, again, can be connected to the central switch, and the instructor has access to all the different BACnet controllers, and they can look and help, all the students from a central location. In this example, we also show on the top right-hand side a BASView3, which we'll talk about later, and it's a supervisory controller used for, looking at dashboards and looking at scheduling and stuff like that for these different controllers on this network. So we also have BACnet controllers for IP and MSTP, and then you do need to interconnect them. To interconnect them, you would use a BAS router, and it provides BACnet IP, BACnet Ethernet, and BACnet MSTP routing. So it's very important for students not to be only learning about one technology. So you can intermix different BACnet technologies in the same network and learn about that. And the BAS routers allow you to do that. So BAS routers are also available in different versions. So if you have a fixed setup, you can have a DIN rail mounted version. You can also have different versions with like high performance. You have Wireshark capabilities where you can capture the network traffic. So if someone's really interested in looking at the details, what a BACnet packet looks like, what a MSTP packet looks like, they can also capture the MSTP traffic for export on a PC and for further analysis on using a Wireshark capture on their PC. You also have a version which is USB powered. So that USB powered version, you don't need any extra power supply. It's very portable, and it's very good for commissioning and troubleshooting. Moving on to a supervisor. So we have the BASView3, like Larry mentioned, it has been used for training at different BEST annual institutes and other BEST events in the past. So it's so the reason it was chosen was because it's a standalone embedded graphical supervisor. You don't need any special supervisor software or special licensing. There's an embedded web page which gives you access to all the functionality for the BASView3. So you get a BACnet IP client. You can discover other devices using the web page. And then you can also do supervisory functions such as trending. You can set up schedules to turn on and off different points on different controllers. You can set up email notifications for alarms and alerts. And best of all, again, it's license-free, it's simple to install. Again, it has a DIN rail mount. It's 24-volt AC powered, so you don't need any special power supplies. And it's a very intuitive graphical interface. So you can just, start clicking and, start creating your applications very easily without any prior training. The other thing is, if you really want to dig deeper, there's also an option to do Python programming and do other advanced sequences in BASView3. So in this example, when we looked at the classroom, we do need to interconnect different devices on the IP network. So we do offer Scorpion series of unmanaged switches. So they are very simple, cost-effective for expanding the Ethernet networks. They are plug and play, and they They don't need any configuration, so all the devices can be interconnected very easily, and they're very ideal for an automation network in the classroom. Instead of using managed switches, you can just interconnect devices without any configuration. If you are also looking for ability to use your, say, a PC over Wi-Fi, or you want to use your phone to look at any of the, say, a BASView 3 supervisor's web page, then you can also connect a Wi-Fi router to one of the Ethernet ports, and then the instructor or the students have access to all these devices over Wi-Fi as well. So moving on to the classroom setup, the big issue is, you don't want to go to your IT network to say, okay, I need, if you have, say, 22 controllers, you don't want to say, give me 22 IP addresses. So probably the best way to set up your own network is use a IP router here. So you can set up your own subnet. It gives you the ability to set up your own IP addressing. And at that point, the only one IP address you need from your IT department is one for the WAN port. And then you can have your own local network, which is connected to the LAN side of these IP routers. So this will give the instructors the full IP administration capability to set up their lab as they want. So again, to mention our commitment to education and training initiatives. Larry mentioned, we had been part of the BEST Institute since 2019 with the first annual institute. For all the educators and the lab setups, we do offer educational discounts. And I mentioned that, free programming tools multiple times. We don't charge for our programming tools. For our controllers, there are no licensing requirements to buy the controllers. They are yours to try. And, we are not going to come back to you and say, okay, we need more money for, using the controllers that you already bought. We do offer internship opportunities. And the other resource that we have is the Learning Center. So besides BACnet, you can learn about Ethernet, you can learn about IP networks, Wi-Fi, and different technologies that we support. And then we do have some other job openings. So I do want to mention that this URL in there. So we'll be updating that for other opportunities we have at this point. Also want to mention some of the education success stories we had. So on the the big thing is like College of DuPage is just about 10 minutes from our office. So, we have been working with Bob Clark, Professor Clark here for a long time. And then here we have some pictures showing the lab setup. We do get access to some of the equipment, if we have to see, hey, will our controller fit here in one of the heat pumps and stuff. So it has been really helpful where we have been able to go and look at some of the devices and, do some testing there. The other one I want to mention is with the Wake Tech Community College. So we do have some BAS Control 22 units in the lab over there. So on the right side, you can see, they have 2 students per controller set up. And they chose the 22S because they can use BACnet IP. They can do BACnet MSTP with the same controller. And you also see the BASView on the left image, the black controller. On the left side is a BASView 3. The black switch on the right is the Ethernet switch to interconnect all the devices. We have also worked with Valencia College. So I think this BASPI and the Barbie story was pretty popular. And then they did, try to do outreach with women education for HVAC. And then this has been, going on with using the BAS-IO. They controlled, some heating set points and, some doors and fans like that to show, how everything operates. So this was another great story. And then we did work with another university in Poland, which was AGH University. So we try to do and support, educational initiatives worldwide, wherever our offices are located. So that concludes my presentation. And then if you want to learn more about the training initiatives, you have the educational webpage. URL here, and then feel free to email me at my email address for additional questions, or feel free to, just type in additional questions here.
Harper Tap, we do have a question here from Robert Nirenberg. On the
Okay.
Bass View 3, is there any intention of transitioning from Python programming to a Sedona implementation and use of SAE?
Not on the Bass View 3. It's meant for more so people do require some additional programming. So we are going to continue with Python, but we do have some additional edge controllers. So those would have to be, that's where you can use those. They will have dashboard, and then they can have Sedona and SAE. So that would be our edge controllers. Like the BassPy edge would be, another option. And then you can use the client functionality on that, to pull in some points, to write to some of the points. Yeah. So I would suggest the BassPy Edge. And then we have some other, more powerful controllers coming out that would have, again, the dashboard and other functionalities.
And Robert followed up with a compliment. Your tech support is amazing. I've worked with them several times and had an outstanding experience.
All right. Thank you for the comment, Robert. Appreciate that.
You're only as good as the level of support you provide.
Yeah, we do our best for that. Thank you.
Very good. You mentioned earlier also about internship opportunities. Could you go into more detail about this?
So right now we have one intern from College of DuPage. He's been, helping us with testing all our new features and products. So we do have additional opportunities, like all these controllers have multiple features. And then, it's helpful for testing. Like all these guys have more hands-on experience on the mechanical side, right? So the control stuff they're learning, and it's good to get their feedback to say, okay, does it make sense? And then, so we always have one intern at least, and then we do have additional opportunities. So we will be again updating our website for the new job opportunities next week. Yeah.
Very
And
good.
again, those are paid internships, just to mention that they are not, they are paid internships. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Is this particular student doing the internship during the regular academic year?
Yeah. Yeah. Because, like some of them are already working, they do part-time school. So they do have some time, and then we are flexible depending on their, availability. Some people do like, 15 hours. If you want to do more, 20, 25. Yeah. So depending on their schedule, yeah, we are flexible. Yeah.
Okay. And Marco from the lab is asking, can you please describe how Python is typically used with the controller?
That's on the BassPy. I'll let Bennett answer that one because he's more knowledgeable about that than me. So Bennett, do you want to jump in, please, about the Python application on the Bass View 3?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
On the Bass View 3, how is Python used and what's the use of Python?
Well, in the Bass View 3, actually, it uses Python for everything it does. But we expose a small, or we expose an ability for the users to create their own Python programs. And you're utilizing in a small subset everything that the Bass View does on its own. You've got the ability to add your own Python application, basically, internal to it. I think that hopefully that answered the question.
So it's more for control, if you want to control something, right? Because it doesn't have Sedona. So probably it's more like you can write your own control algorithm, basically.
Yeah, it is used to control the points that it's reading and writing.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
And Marco followed up with another question. Can you write sequences with Python?
Well, we're not trying to make it a Bass control, basically. I mean, we're trying to make it a small add-on to what the Bass View does. You know, if the Python program that you're writing utilizes a lot of, you know, if it ties up a lot of resources in the Bass View, then you're going to be stopping the Bass View from doing its own activities. So we don't recommend you doing a full, you know, full application that you would do in a controller in the Bass View. We recommend that occurring in a Bass controller.
All right. And Stephen Wilson is asking, is there any plan or has there been any thought about a shutdown button for the Bass Pi? Raspberry Pi.
A shutdown button where it stops operating altogether, or yeah, I'm not sure what is meant by that.
Stephen, do you want to kind of explain your question a bit further?
Like, have you seen any issues? Like what's the, why are you requesting this feature?
Mute. Okay, could you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. What we have discovered here at Walla Walla for several years, we've used the Bass Pi as a training tool for our DDC class. And there's nothing more infuriating to the students to have the the micro SD card get corrupted because it was in the middle of a write sequence when the power was disconnected. I've been playing with the Bass Pi, and I've sort of created I've created a system to shut it down, but there's no indication that shows when it's shut down unless you can get clear down inside underneath the board and see the activity light. And so if it's in a case, you can't see that. But also something in the Bass Pi control algorithms, there's something in there that causes us not to be able to have access to some of the pins on the bus. And so I was curious if anybody's ever thought about putting an actual soft shutdown button on the Bass Pi. It's the Contemporary Controls board that you just press it. It has an indicator light that goes out or something when the Pi is shut down so that you can safely disconnect the power without corrupting the SD card.
I don't think anyone has asked for that feature, but these are good suggestions. We'll look at that certainly.
Now, I tried to figure out how to have access to all of those pins, but there are certain ones, and I know that the board only uses pins 1 through 10 or something like that. So you got about 30 more pins that could be used, but the code that you would plug in, and this isn't something that my students would do, but the code that you would use to actively use those other pins somehow or another interferes with the code that is set up to run with the board. So I'm just curious if anybody's ever discussed the idea of having a shutdown button that can just either be plugged in or maybe even connects to the Pi board or the.
Are we supposed to go as far as to get the LMI train card? You want us to wait?
You can go ahead and do that if you can figure it out.
Okay, because at home I tried to do it and it just kept giving me a blank white screen. So
Okay,
I haven't tried it here.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing would be to add it to a web page, right? You can do that. I think instead of making hardware changes are always hard.
Yeah.
because then you got to go through EMC, all that stuff. So I think, we'll look into, adding a shutdown button on the web page to say, okay, and then hopefully maybe turn off one of the LEDs or something. So we'll look into that further.
Okay. I'm just curious. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and then thanks. And then the other thing we have seen is, between the SD cards, if you are, buying your own SD cards on the BAS-PI Edge, I know that enclosed units, we don't use the commercially available, SanDisk and stuff like that. So ours are special mode. It's called either a pseudo SLC. So it's like it's a binary. It's a 2-level. And then to get more memory and, to get the cost down, some of them are like, they called TLC, tri-level cell. So between 0 and 1, they have multiple levels. They use 3 bits. So, those are easier to get corrupted. So, with the SLC versions, you don't get as much memory density and the costs are higher. But, in our testing, that's what we have found out, that you just keep using the PSLC or the SLC mode SD cards. So when we started with testing the BAS-PI originally, I don't know how many SanDisk cards we killed in our testing till we, figured out the SLC was.
Very good. I'm glad he unmiked himself to ask that. And then Connie Keene at Wake Tech is asking, what are next projects you are working on?
Well, we are expanding the BAS control line. So we are adding like a wall setter port to some of the controllers. So if you want to, do additional control and not use a thermostat, do some additional logic. So we have another, the 22 point, both the MSTP version and the IP version. So we're going to add wall setter port to those. The other one is like a bigger 36-point Linux controller. So think of it as, expanded BAS-PI Edge with, dashboard abilities. And then also eventually our hope is to be able to run, GL36 sequences on that, because it has enough horsepower and the IO points to, implement that. So we want to provide a platform for GL36. And again, it will have, IP, MSTP support for both, yeah. And the other thing, I don't know if you guys have started looking into BACnet SC is another, for security conscious people. BACnet has another standard called, or another data link called BACnet SC, Secure Connect. So that's another thing we'll be coming out with a BACnet SC router. So that again, at that point it starts to get involved where you have to learn, about certificates and keys, and all your devices have to be using the same certificate authority. So it does get into the IP networking layer. So at that point you do have to get the IT infrastructure and all the people who manage the IT infrastructure involved in the setup of BACnet devices.
Very good. Okay. Keep innovating. And I'm sorry, you were about to say HarperTap?
No, that's it.
Okay. And then Marco, he is just on fire right now. He would like to discuss Guideline 36 implementation with you all. The lab is working on ASHRAE 231P. And he says also they have open source tools and they're looking for implementation partners, if there might be some interest.
Okay. Well, Marco, email me, or if you want to type your email, Marco, that's fine. I'll reach out to you and then we can discuss further.
What about any kind of instructor training you all might provide directly?
Well, we usually work with, Professor Clark, and then he's been our champion, pushing our stuff to other people. So we like to thank him for that. We do have, like I mentioned, educational discounts. So we don't offer specific training directly, We'll be looking into that. You know, I know you guys have done, Best Center has done training for instructors. So, you know, we are happy to partner with you for some of the training initiatives. So we can talk about that, you know, how we don't have anything specific written to say, okay, this is how we provide instructor training, because, you know, you guys know better than us what's required for the classrooms and instructors, but we are happy to learn from you guys and, you know, be your partners in any way we can.
Terrific. And I don't see any other questions. I would just like to mention that if anyone is kind of interested in learning more about the Barbie Smart Grand Hotel project developed by Dr. Deb Hall at Valencia College, get in touch with us. We do have a PowerPoint video. It also kind of lists all the components used in her project, as well as one that was developed by Robert Nirenberg. So, you know, it's a great way to try to engage the next generation of the BAS workforce. And with that, I think we need to move on to the next session. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you, everyone.